I started playing the drums. I think I got my first drum set when I was 5 because my mom was tired of my taking all her pots and pans out of the cupboards and banging on them all the time. And then as I was growing up, she always said it was good child care because she knew right where I was at all times.
Yeah.
And then
when the drum gets quiet, it's time to check on them.
yeah, and then maybe like 5th grade, we moved into an apartment, and I couldn't play the drums no more. I had to play the clarinet, which if you go from being the drummer to the clarinet player, it's not the vibe.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But by like middle school again, I was back playing drum set and got back in. I started playing like in the church, was like my first real gig, and then had a band, started recording at like 16, put out my first album when I was 17, and then just been pursuing it ever since. But when I got up to Seattle, I didn't have a band, so I was just like going to jams, the Spotted Owl, the Sea Monster, and then Mo Jams. One day I was working in Fremont, right across the street from where we throw Fremont Friday when it used to be Fremont Gardens, the weed shop. Shout out. And I walked down the street and found Mo Jams, and then started linking with cats around town. And Evan on bass and I kind of were in a band together for a long time, and that's how I got tapped in with the martial law band.
That's fire. That's fire. I mean, I know personally, but for the listeners, you mentioned it, but where were you living at before? Like, where you grew up at before you moved out here?
Oh, so I was born in New York, but I grew up mainly in Carson City, Nevada, and then just started traveling. Moved to Florida, moved out here to Hawaii, moved to New York, and then my bass player for my first album back in high school, he got into UW, and he came up here and he called me one day. I was living in New York. He's like, "Bro, come to Seattle. You're gonna love it here." And so I came. I went to Gasworks first night. Went to Bumbershoot next day. Been in Seattle for.
Oh, that's how they got you.
Yeah, you feel me?
Right.
How you trick them to come from New York?
Festival food and and smoke in the air that'll hook you.
Yeah. No, both those events are pretty live. I mean, it's hard to. That's a good first 2 days for sure.
Yeah,
and then
that was my first 48 hours in Seattle, so I was like, yo,
For sure.